And some housekeeping rules when if you can all stay on mute, except for those who are either being interviewed or the interviewees. At the end, we will have an opportunity to ask questions. I'm Tracy White. I'm the site director of Lewis and Clark Middle School Academy. Woo, 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 woo. Yes, so excited to bring our guest today and put you into the hands of our capable hosts and into their hands right now.
Welcome to the Community Spotlight Podcast. I'm Laila. I'm an 8th grader at Lewis and Clark Middle School.
Hi, my name is Herlin Flores. I'm an 8th grader at Lewis and Clark Middle School as well, and we are both in the Lewis and Clark After School Academy. Welcome, Miss Megan Addison.
Thank you for being on the Community Spotlight. Can you tell the audience about yourself?
I sure can. My name is Megan Addison, and I'm the Executive Director for Collective for Youth. And we are an organization that works with after-school programs in primarily Omaha Public Schools. We currently work with over 37 different schools, and Lewis and Clark is one of them, one of the middle schools that we partner with. I'm also a native to Omaha. I have married to my husband of 16 years, and we have 3 daughters. One that's a freshman in high school. I have a 7th grader and a 4th grader.
Okay. What makes you want to give back to the community?
That is such a good question. You know, I remember being back in high school and thinking about like, what did I want to do? Like, what career choice was I going to focus on? And what kept coming up for me is I wanted to make sure I could make a difference. So I pursued an education in social work because I felt that was a great avenue for me to be able to impact community and impact individuals. And really found, got really lucky and got a job at a after school agency and was helping run programs and supervise programs, and fell in love with the idea that by providing great experiences for kids, that we can really make a difference in their lives and in the community themselves.
If you can go back to our age, what would you do differently?
So you're in middle school, right? So if I went back to middle school, one thing I would do differently is I would have tried more things. I think at that age, I was too nervous to, you know, maybe not be good at something, or, you know, not know how to do something like sports or clubs. I wish I would have just tried it all, because then I think it would have helped me understand a lot better about what I liked and didn't like.
Okay. What advice would you give to somebody our age about school?
Well, I'll tell you, one thing I tell my daughters all the time is school is all about learning how to learn. It's not about the grades that you get. I mean, grades are important, of course, but it's about learning from your mistakes and learning from the errors you might make in school and how to think. And that's so hard these days, because I think there's a lot of pressure to do really well, but you are much more successful if you learn from your mistakes versus just always getting things to come easy to you. So that would be the one advice I would say. Don't feel bad if you make mistakes. Those are really lessons for you to learn from.
Who inspires you and why?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Who inspires me and why? You know, in my beginning of my career, I had a great mentor. She still works in the after school world, Penny Parker. And she inspired me to come work in after school because of the growth that she took a small organization into a large organization that serves over 2,000 students a year. And I was just so impressed with her dedication, her ability to be strategic and give back to a young professional as myself at that time. So she really inspired me to work hard. And since then, I left the organization and have been here at Collective for Youth for the last 13 years, still leading by example and remembering those lessons I learned when I was a young professional. But I would also say, on a personal note, my mother has always been quite the inspiration for me. She raised us as a a single mom and, eventually remarried, but just told us all the time that we can do whatever we put our minds to, and that, working hard is important. And she really was a driving force for my own personal success.
What are some organizations you are a part of?
So I talked already about Collective for Youth. Other organizations that I am part of, I actually volunteer when I can for my children's school. I feel it's important to be a role model in the sense of giving back to the education community. I also sit on like their school improvement teams. I feel, just so I have a voice as a parent and what I think needs to improve. In the past, I used to be a junior league member. So that's a volunteer organization of women, and we did all sorts of fundraisers and volunteer activities in the community based on what need was going on. I'm now a sustaining member of that, and I'm part of an Omaha network group. It's called the Women's or Omaha Network. It's all women, and I serve on their program committee. So I help determine who comes to speak to these business women every month in the organization.
How has COVID-19 affected the way you serve in the community now?
You guys probably know that best, being participants in an after-school program. But COVID-19 has really pushed our after-school programs to think a lot more creatively on how you can engage students in a world where they're not in school every day and in a virtual environment like what we're doing today. So we've helped provide some supports for that. One thing that we also have been doing is we've moved all our training virtually. So since we can't get together in person, we have lots of training opportunities online or webinars on demand so that people continue to gain professional skills even in this pandemic.
What was your greatest community accomplishment this year?
So I would say, fortunately for the role that I play at Collective for Youth, we were able to continue to provide funding for all of our partners, even though programs were shut down in March. So it was really a concern that if we weren't able to keep, that we would lose all these wonderful people who worked so hard to build relationships with you. So I would say one of our greatest accomplishments was doing that, keeping people employed, keeping them engaged in youth development, because it's such a special field for people to be in, and it's important to continue those relationships with kids. So I really wanted to make sure that we could maintain as many people who were working in those programs as we continued to live through this pandemic.
What brings you joy?
Ask the question again, Laila.
What brings you joy?
Sorry, I must have been paused in the internet space when you asked that before. What brings me joy? A few things. I mean, there's lots of things that bring me joy. My family brings me a lot of joy. I really enjoy being with them. My job and the colleagues that I work with every day bring me joy. I think I learn something new from the people I work with all the time. And I would also say just the opportunity to be creative. So I like to scrapbook, put pictures in books and put designs around it. And when I have time to just take a step back and do that, it really provides a lot of joy for me.
How can we inspire others to be a bright light in our community?
I think by you showing up like you do today and ask thoughtful questions of others and telling them about what you're passionate about always spurs more passion in other people. I think being positive role models to others always, encourages other people to be just as good and to be that bright light as well.
How do you balance everything in your life?
If you asked another question, I missed it.
How do you balance everything in your life?
Oh, if I had the answer to that, I think I'd be a millionaire. It's really hard. It's hard to balance children, family, and work. But I'll say one thing I've always felt is as a priority, even in my work environment, in my leadership here, it's so important to be able to take care of your family when you need to take care of them and take care of yourself. Because if you don't, then it's really hard to give your talents when you come to work. So making that a priority in our policies and even in my leadership is important. And then I always remind myself that work is always there. It's always going to be there. It's going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there the next day. And knowing best what I need to do right now helps keep me more balanced with enjoying my family when I can, but also accomplishing what I need to do in my job.
What do you like most about your job?
What I love most is all the kids that get to participate in these after school programs. I often think about, man, what an experience that would have been if I had an after school program to go to when I was your age, but I didn't. And seeing the amount of different activities they can participate in and learn from is always inspiring to me. And that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps me motivated to continue to find funding and resources for the programs, because I know it's so essential and impacts so many youth every day.
How can you inspire others to be a bright light in the community?
What was the first part of it? I missed it. How can I inspire others?
To be a bright light in the community.
Okay. I think, that's another really good question. You guys have come up with some excellent questions. I would say, how can I inspire others? Would be, probably telling more people about what we do and how they can give back. I think oftentimes Collective for Youth in our work and our partnership is like the biggest secret in Omaha that people don't know about. And if we tell our story more and how important it is for kids that are served, I think we can encourage others to be a bright light and figure out what their talents are that they want to give back to the community. Sometimes people just need to be asked. And if they're not asked to help or asked to give back, they don't know how. So I think having those conversations, asking people what they like to do, and see if there's a place for them to either support our work or support some other nonprofit in Omaha would be maybe how I would approach it best.
Thank you. Those are some very lovely answers. And now, does anyone in our audience have a question for Miss Megan Addison?
I do. I have a question. So, what are some ways that we can help you and the agency? Are you able to hear me, Megan?
No, you cut out there. I heard
Okay.
you just now.
Okay. What are some ways that we as the after school program can help Collective for Youth?
I think one of the biggest ways after school programs can help Collective for Youth is just even understanding what our relationship is together and what our common goals are, and being able to talk about that just as much as you can talk about your own individual program. I think it's all about telling the story, and the more people who understand that it's so important for after school programs to be high quality experiences for kids, the more of those opportunities are going to be out there, no matter what part of the city anybody lives in. I think that joint communication and that joint support is key.
Thank you for that lovely answer again.
Is there anything you would like to add, Miss Megan?
I would just like to thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity opportunity to talk about Collective for Youth, talk about myself. I'm not the type of person that often goes around talking about myself. So this was kind of fun today. You pushed me a little bit out of my own comfort zone, and I appreciate that. And I wish the two of you the best, and I hope that you're enjoying your program after school.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
joining
for
our
joining our
Community
Community
Spotlight
Spotlight
podcast.
podcast. I'm Laila.
I'm Herlin Flores. See you
See
next
you
time
next time on the
Community.
Community Spotlight podcast, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.